From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One more corner pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
And Corey Clark.
Wake up! What is up, everybody? It is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Coming up on today's show, it is your show, Renegade Express. Lots of questions about Miami, Jordan Travis, Mission Takeaway. We'll get to all of it. We'll try really hard, promise. Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill in Tallahassee, Florida, cptallybar.com. That is the website. Pull out your phone, open up the camera app, hit that barcode. It's called the QR code. Takes you right to the website. You can put your order online, check out the menu, get directions, and make some plans for this weekend because it's Miami weekend. And if you're not going to be down in Seminole Hard Rock, which I was told to specifically emphasize, go check out Corner Pocket. All sorts of great games. You got A&M in Florida at noon, Georgia versus Tennessee.
I don't know if that's a great one, but it's an intriguing one. Right? Sorry.
Already, Corey. Already.
Sorry,
Take
my
a
fault.
win out of my sails. Trying to come strong on a Friday. 3:30. Tennessee, Georgia, and then obviously 7:30 primetime ABC. I think that would mean Kirk and Chris on the call, but I don't know. Maybe they'll move them somewhere else. Who knows? But I would think Georgia, Tennessee's on CBS. So anyhow, find out, watch in, tune in. But go to Corner Pocket Bar. Have a great weekend.
I think LSU Alabama is maybe the 8. I don't know. That's a good question.
Ooh, yeah.
Maybe LSU Alabama is ESPN.
It is, yeah. So they might do.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll do that.
I
one.
assume they're doing that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So LSU number 10. A lot of people upset about that. But
It is crazy, right? Like, what do you think Florida State would be ranked if they had beaten NC State? If they had won the game they should have, so they'd be 6-2 with a win over LSU. What do you think they'd have been ranked in the initial college football playoff rankings?
like low teens, 17, 18, something like that, probably.
Yeah. Even though they would have the same record as LSU and beat them. And it wasn't a fluke win. That's just how it works, right? That's the beauty of being in the SEC. You lose close. You lose by 35 to Tennessee at home. It's like, well, Tennessee's awesome. No shame in that. And then you get all these chances to beat a good team. So it's the beauty. It's just it's cyclical.
Yeah,
but they'll lose this weekend, right? And it won't matter.
Right. That's the de facto SEC West championship game. So
yeah,
they could pull it off somehow, but don't see it. All right, I could probably go on a rant about that, but I'm not. Let's go to the people. Let's start off. It's Renegade Express. I've gone ahead and checked all the questions, Corey. We've bundled up several of them. This one, though, kind of stands. No, it doesn't stand on its own. We're going to bundle it up with something. Wake up. Dalvinism says. Oh, Dalvinism, welcome back, man. I feel like he's one of these guys we'll probably only see for about 8 more months, and he won't renew his subscription.
Talk about him like that.
Hey,
What's the matter with you?
He left us. He left us during the losing streak. Now it's Miami week.
Oh,
He's
that's
back.
right. Good call.
Come on, everybody. Listen. If I had a kid, I'd go to all of his games, much like Corey goes to his son's games. But when it became apparent that he wasn't going to go Division I wouldn't just stop going to the games. I would keep going. You guys still show up for your kid. Just because they lose, just because it's not a big rivalry week, we need you here, everybody. All right?
Amen, Aslan. Amen,
we need you
buddy.
here. Love you, Dalvinism. Wake up. Thinking back to last year's Miami game, do you think that was the most important moment of the Norvell era so far? If they don't convert that 4th and 14 and finish with a 5-win season, there would probably have been a ton more hot seat talk this year, and that win over Miami seems to be when he won over the vast majority of the fan base. Thoughts? And we will, never mind. I got the numbers are all wrong. This is going to be a really weird show. I went and pre-read all of them, and I screwed it up, but it's fine. We'll figure it out on the fly, Corey. I'll stop talking. What do you think? Was that the biggest win of the Norvell era?
Yeah, but I don't know that there would have been hot seat talk. 4-8, 5-7. It was still a down year, and he still ended poorly. That was a bad loss. That I would say right now that Florida loss is probably if we're just going the last 2 seasons because we'll kick COVID to the curb and not count that as much. I think that was the second worst loss of his tenure. That Florida loss. That team had no fight until you gave it a reason to. That quarterback just kept throwing interceptions to you. You didn't matter. You had something to play for. They had nothing to play for. They were an interim coach, and you still lost that game. So that wasn't a good look. But, yeah, I think I would say Miami unless you want to fast forward to the LSU game, only because of what it would have meant if they lost that LSU game. That would have been
because in that fashion, not because
correct. Not because, there's shame in losing to, we said, apparently one of the 10 best teams in the country. There's no shame in losing to them, but how they would have lost it, just falling apart in the fourth quarter. The pitch played near the goal line where you literally could almost take a knee and win the game. That would have been really hard for him to come back from. But Shaheem Brown came and saved the day.
Moving along, thank you, Dalvinism. I agree with pretty much everything Corey stated because that LSU game could have gone sideways, but it was a pretty good defining win. But obviously the Miami game, things were on the cusp there. And again, they lost to Florida, and we really don't hold it against them that much because that Miami game. Had they not won the Miami, that would have been a double whammy.
Yeah, it's definitely. I think you could say it's the biggest win. It's always a big win to beat your rival, especially the year before when you lost 52-10 to the same team. So to come back and beat them, I do think that's number one on his list. But LSU's really close because of what a loss would have meant in that LSU game.
Hey, man, he's beat a number 5 team, North Carolina. We're not even talking about that one. So
yeah, and he's got a number 10 team on his bedpost now, right?
Yeah.
Does that count as a win over a top 10 team?
Sure.
Okay.
We'll do that. I mean, yeah, we'll figure it out. Noel Boy 02, we'll package this one with our guy Jamaica Noel. Noel Boy 02, wake up, guys. Miami week, my flags are flying. Wondering who will be the breakout player. He says Micah Pittman because of the Why I Left Oregon video he made. From the time he transferred, he believed that he would have his best game against Miami because he wants to stick it to Mario. What do you think? Our guy Jamaica Noel, his name is Justin. He's from San Diego. He met you, Corey, in New Orleans at the Howlin' Wolf before making their way over to the next bar. He followed you through that hurricane that popped up, he said.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember that. What a deluge.
Yeah. So he's in San Diego. He's rooting for the Holiday Bowl if they can't make a New Year's Six Bowl. His question is, what offensive and defensive player do you think needs to have the biggest impact in these remaining games to secure the next 5 wins? So I guess let's look at biggest impact player Saturday, tomorrow, and then who we think maybe going forward the rest of the season. I like the Micah pick. I think there's some love lost between he and Mario, and this, we haven't seen him quite really break out and have a dominating performance, but this Miami linebacking core is banged up, so there might be stuff in the middle of the field that he can kind of exploit, and the back end hasn't been all that tidy throughout the season. So I like to pick up Micah Pittman against Miami.
Yeah, I guess it just depends on how much stuff is run specifically for him. I don't think Norvell is the kind of guy that's like, let's let Micah go off against his former coach. I don't think that will enter his thought process at all. So they're going to call a specific game plan just to feature Micah. I do think Jordan Travis and Micah Pittman are good friends, and I do think Jordan Travis might look for number 4, knowing what this game means to him a little bit more than usual, which isn't the right thing to do necessarily. Just find the open guy, not just concentrate on 4. But yeah, Pittman's a good choice. I mean, I guess I'll always fall back to Johnny Wilson. I think he's gonna have the most targets, so he's gonna have the most chances to make a play, especially in a game like this. I feel like I know he dropped some crucial passes against NC State, but they went to him when it mattered. And that last drive of the game, when nothing's going right, and you've got 1 first down the whole second half, you can't just lob it up down the sideline and your guy might make a catch, and that's what he did. And I feel like maybe in rivalry games and in tough environments, you go to 14 a little more. So I'll say Johnny Wilson. And then on the defense, and also Trey Benson's going against his former coach now too.
Yeah,
that's happening too. And then on the other side,
he was a running back though. Mario likes running backs. Mario doesn't
that's true,
like receivers.
but he didn't like Trey Benson. He only had like 5 carries there.
Well, I guess he blew out.
I would say Jared Verse.
Okay. Yeah, Jared Verse. That's a guy. If you want to close out the next 5 games, would probably be my pick. I was going to pick some sort of mystery player on the defense, whether it be a corner opposite Renardo that kind of emerges. But yeah, Jared Verse these next games, Syracuse. Let's harass the heck out of their quarterback. Let's harass the heck out of AR or whether Anthony Richardson. He's going to be crucial, I think, to the next 5 games. For sure. Good pick, Corey. Good pick.
Hey, thanks, buddy.
All right, let's package these two together. It's our guy, Don Ruggins. Get it? Rugans. So he says, Aslan, Corey, wake up. Do we have more? We'll do quickly kind of back to back. These are these or questions. More rushing yards or passing yards Saturday? What gives us the better chance to win and why?
I mean, I would always say more rushing yards. That means you're kind of controlling the game. You're controlling the line of scrimmage. So that I think that's, especially this is a run-oriented team. So if you're running for more yards than you're passing, that's because you got to figure you're going to pass for around 220 at least, at the very least. So if you're running for more than that, man, you've controlled the game and had a good game. So I would say that's my reasoning. And also it can demoralize the defense if you can't stop the run. And so that would be a very nice that'd be a very nice thing for the offense to be doing, is just running it down their throat. Because then you can throw off of that, because they're gonna have to at some point bring somebody else into the box to help stop the run if they're just getting mauled, and then you take a shot over the top with big number 4 for a touchdown against his former coach.
Yeah, that's a good question. Miami's averaging 229 yards allowed through the air, 113 on the ground. That's 24th in the country, the rushing defense. But I think Florida State is just so – again, we mentioned balance on the show the other day, and it's not necessarily what your reps are. I think it's just how your production is.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. This could be one of those games where maybe Jordan throws for 275 and they run for 220.
Well, that'd be good.
That's a
That'd be
combination
nice
to win the football game. But I'll trust the running. I'll trust the rushing attack, because that also
sometimes
does
you fear that if
factor
you're
Jordan's legs as well. So
if you're throwing the ball a lot, does that mean you're behind?
no, but I mean, it's 2022. This kid's played in 20 games now, I think, and they've got some weapons, and you got an offensive line that's pretty decent. You can fling it around. You can go 25 of 37 for 270. That's
okay. All right.
I don't think
37. Okay, they're gonna be throwing around. I got you.
Bad formula, but yeah, they do run the ball. They're so committed to it. I will stick with the running attack. That's probably the way they'll get her done here. And then our next either or comes from Teacher Noel. Wake up. How productive do you think the run game and secondary have to be in order to get a win versus Miami? Maybe not an either or, but kind of same family-ish. We're talking run game. And the Florida State defensive secondary. How productive does the run game for Florida State have to be, and the secondary for Florida State, in order to get the win?
Well, I wouldn't think they're going to – man, look, I don't think the offense has to have a great game for them to win this game. They better not have to. I think we've talked about, mid-20s should be enough against this offense, but it would be a bad sign if they're not running the ball well. They've run the ball well, other than what, man? Like the second half against NC State? They've kind of run the ball on everyone. And NC State's got a good defense, and they ran for 70 of those was your running quarterback running the ball in one play, but that counts. He did run the ball. He's a good runner, and he had a 70-yard run against you, and you scored on that drive. So, I think for them to win the game, for me to be convinced they're going to win the game, yeah, the running game has to have a good. If the running game does what it's done the last 3 games, it's hard to imagine them losing, because that's over 200 yards. And look, Miami has a nice defense against the run. They also haven't faced. This is the best offense they've faced.
North Carolina's.
No, sorry, rushing offense. Okay. And it's not all that close. They haven't faced. North Carolina's put up more points, obviously, but they throw the ball. They're not balanced. Yeah. Florida State is the most balanced offense they've seen. And so it's a bear, man. They've put up more yards on Clemson than anybody has. I think they put up more yards on Wake than anybody has. In one half, anyway, they put up more yards on NC State than anybody has. Georgia Tech. You go down the list, they put up a ton of yards on teams that aren't used to giving up yardage. So I think the running game, it would be a disappointment if it does not perform well, just because of the way they ran for 200 against Clemson and then 250 against Georgia Tech. So I expect similar against Miami. If that doesn't happen, it's a much closer game than otherwise. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think if they're dominating the line of scrimmage and running the ball, and Jordan has 2nd and 2s, and 3rd and 1s, 2nd and 3s, I think you're going to win the game, because you're going to consistently move the ball down the field, and eventually you're going to be good in the red zone, score points.
Absolutely. And then the secondary-wise, I'm talking about Miami, buddy. He's pretty much conceded this game, and part of it just says he doesn't think they have the weapons to really scare us. I'm like, well, our secondary isn't the most daunting curtain to go up against, but yeah, I think that the Colby Young kid's something, Restrepo kid's something, Mallory, but they're not all that explosive and dangerous, where you just have to constantly be on pins and needles going against them. So I think the secondary can maybe serve the way they've been playing here of late, and it'll be enough, I would think. I don't know if they have to really – again, we're a little bit concerned about what's going on opposite Renardo Green, but is Xavier Restrepo going to haunt you for that?
Well, and he's just coming back, right? He played, 14 reps?
Yeah.
So he's probably still not 100%. He's a nice player. He's a good player for them. But you don't know how healthy he is. And the Colby Young kid has made some really big catches for them, big in quotes. So they've got They've got some guys that maybe when you watch the A&M game, you're like, oh, there's nothing here. But Florida State, other than one game against Clemson, maybe I don't know. I don't even know if I blame them for the Wake Forest stuff. They were in position, just didn't make plays. But other than the one game against Clemson, they didn't give up. They don't usually give up wide open stuff.
Right.
So they'll make Miami go earn it. It would be nice to get an interception or two. Those I have seen games this year, Aslan, a lot of them, where a defensive back will catch a pass, and then their team will get the ball. That has happened. I've seen it with my own eyes. I saw Kevin Noles do it in Louisville.
Yeah.
So that might have been the last one, for all I know. I don't remember many other. Maybe there was one against Boston College, like a tip pass or something. I just you'd think they'd all come to the front of my mind, as little as they are. It's not like I'm having to go through a Rolodex of all the big plays the secondary has made. But, yeah, look, the secondary, in my opinion, has been a disappointment. Akeem Dent has not been the player I thought he was going to be.
Same.
Jamie Robinson's been Jamie Robinson. Yeah. And Duke Cooper has – I don't even know what to describe what's happened to him. I don't know how to describe it. But that said, they have done a good job of not giving up huge plays. They give up, 175 yards a game? So nothing – they've done a nice job of keeping everything in front, bend but don't break.
Okay, I like that. All right, Spartan Knoll 71, Bama Knoll 2. We'll package these together. Ralph in Hawaii. Just want to get your guys' thoughts. Aloha, guys. How's it, first off? Want to get your thoughts on why the team and individual players are so inconsistent. His opinion is they need to learn how to win again. Bama Knoll 2 is from Birmingham, longtime listener, first-time poster. Loves the direction the program's going under Norvell. That said, I think the inconsistent offensive production and defensive busts routinely given up in the secondary are more a testament of us still being in win-close phase and learning how to go out and win games against good, decent opponents, as well as trusting their eyes and coaching, then executing. What say you guys? I mean, isn't every team inconsistent outside of the four teams that are in the playoff, and even they have a bad drive or two? There's nothing endemic about this program. There's nothing about Mike Norvell's management of games that just consistently shows up every single drive or every two drives. It just leaves you scratching your head. There's moments where you wish they could have done better, but I mean, listen, Tennessee's left points on the field.
Not many,
not a lot. Yeah, probably a bad example, but no, I mean, even 2013. Actually, no, that's a bad example too. They're just not there yet. They're just not there yet, guys. They're just not there yet. I don't know. I don't think it's anything endemic, anything that's being taught. Maybe they don't have the requisite talent. Elite talent to not be inconsistent, because that's where either you're elite or you're not. I think Grover Cleveland said that.
Yeah, he did.
They're not elite right now, which is fine. We wish they were, but they're not. When they become elite, inconsistency goes away. That's my experience.
Well, it's much more. Yeah, it's not nearly as visible. I think that's the thing you have to think about is, man, the secondary gives up busts and doesn't make plays because the secondary doesn't have Jalen Ramsey, Terrence Brooks, LaMarcus Joyner back there. Like, those guys aren't inconsistent because they're consistently awesome. And other than Jamie Robinson, there aren't a lot of consistently awesome guys in that secondary. So that's where you're going to run into that. I mean, if you're an above average player, not a great one and not a horrible one, but above average, I don't know, man, that means you're going to win 7 out of 10. But that means there's 3 times that somebody's better than you or gets the better of you on that play because you're not elite. And I don't know that means you're inconsistent as much as it's just that's water finding its level. And I think that happens on offense too, where you have some very good college football players on offense, I think. You don't have Dalvin. You don't have Rashad Green. You don't have guys that are consistently great. So Johnny Wilson will make an incredible catch down the sideline, an unbelievable adjustment with his body, and then outrun a dude for a touchdown. And then later in the game, drop a diving catch in the end zone, which he should make. I mean, it would have been a nice catch, but he should make it. He's not Kelvin Benjamin or Rashad Green. So you're going to see these inconsistent moments. I think my biggest issue with the way this season has gone is maybe consistency in scheme, third down plays, red zone. Like, that's not all on the players. I think there's some coaching stuff there that definitely needs to get cleaned up as he moves on with this program. But by and large, as Aslan said, man, and just watch the NFL. Like, other than, even Josh Allen will have a bad game or two. Isn't it crazy that I just used him?
He was mad at himself after they beat the Chiefs on Sunday night or whatever it was this past weekend. Like he's like, man, we played
it was
like
the Packers because he threw two horrible interceptions.
Yeah.
And he's maybe the best player in the league, and he threw a couple interceptions. He didn't have his best game. That happens. It's crazy. You watch the NFL, and like every team will have a game where it's just like they just didn't show up. They didn't want to be here. Like even the really good ones, even Mahomes will have the Chiefs will have a couple of games a year where they lose by 2 or 3 scores. And it's like what happened? Well, it's the nature of the sport and it's football. And I think as college football gets closer to that, you will see Georgia struggle with Missouri. Georgia's very well coached and has a ton of talent. They had to beat Missouri in the final 3 minutes of that game. So there's just inconsistency that abounds when you're talking about 20-year-old kids with the parity that exists. And with Florida State specifically, when you look at the other teams in the country that are around that area of rankings, and I would say, I don't know, man, let's go from number 10 with LSU all the way to like number 35 or 40. Florida State's in that window somewhere. All those teams have had just mind-numbingly inconsistent stretches. Like, how do you go a whole quarter and a half without scoring a point against Wake Forest when you have that offense? How does that happen?
How do you drop 2 punts in a game?
Yeah, good point. Inside your own 15-yard line. So that I think is it's just the nature of the sport. That doesn't mean they're excused, but I think to Aslan's point, the inconsistent stretches will be diminished when you get better players.
Well said, Corey. Thank you, man.
Yeah, that was a long soliloquy. I apologize.
No, for real. Way to do it.
Growing up, my dad used to take me to the game at the stadium. We'd watch our favorite team play, and then we'd always eat at Zaxby's. That's why it means so much to me that Zaxby's is the official chicken of college fans. To me, they go together perfectly. It reminds me of my dad and...
Oh, come on, Ref! Are you serious? Get some glasses! Terrible call!
Now I take my kids to the game, and we always eat at Zaxby's too. It's tradition.
We're proud to be the official chicken of college fans. Zaxby's, indescribably good.
And don't forget to listen in for the Zaxby's Indescribably Good Player of the Week every Monday on Wake Up Warchant.
Here we go. We'll bundle these two, Bradley Moss and our guy, Old Dads and Old. Bradley Moss, wake up. Norvell wasn't there last time Florida State played at Seminole Hard Rock. We all know what happened, but I'm hoping he, along with the rest of the coaches, talked about that game result and talked it up big time this week. We're favored, yes, but we need to keep that chip on our shoulder. I'm expecting a big game from our top 5 quarterback. Hey-o.
Yeah.
Big question is, against this vaunted Miami offense, do we finally get a stop to start the second half? Old Dad is the other side of the coin, not as tongue-in-cheek. Due to the offensive output, many glossed over the second-half defense against Georgia Tech last week, but once they decided to actually call forward plays, lousy Georgia Tech did this. Of course, an opening touchdown drive, 15 first downs, 240 yards of offense, and 2 scores. Sorry if I don't trust our defensive coordinator since I haven't seen him coach 4 quarters yet. What am I missing here? Cheers to the best, Old Dad.
Yeah, Old Dad, I don't think you'll hear me disagreeing with you, man. I'm not sold on that either. I'm not sold on that side of the ball. I'm not sold on the adjustments that are made. I'm not sold on how easy it can look at times for average to below average offenses to move the ball against you.
Is it always the second half score the opposing team starts the half off with the ball, or is it just their first possession of every second half always ends in a touchdown the last 4 times?
It changed this week, Aslan. So the last 3 weeks, Florida State had lost the toss, which they do every week. So the other team got the ball to start the second half and just marched down the field and scored. This past week, Florida State was due to get the ball because they actually won a toss.
Onside kick, yeah.
But then Georgia Tech onside kicked it. And then, I was on headlines. I was talking to Ira, and he's like, well, you gave him a short field. I'm like, man, they got the ball at their own 41. It wasn't that short a field. They didn't get the ball at your 20. Right. And you did give up 2 first downs before the last play. His point was after you gave up the 2 first downs, you did give them in the 3rd and 13, which was nice. But then you also, for reasons that are not crystal clear, you give up a wide-open touchdown pass that gets them kind of back in the game. And that was not good to see. I do not trust this defense to not give up some perplexing plays and some points to anyone left on the schedule, literally anyone. But I think by and large, over the course of 60 minutes, they will not break enough that Miami look, man, if Miami goes up and down the field and puts up 400 yards and 28, 30-something points, you got a real problem and some real questions to ask. Because I shouldn't say untalented, because that makes it sound like they're not great. As un-NFL talented as your defense might be, where you might only have 2 or 3 guys that get a sniff, there's some decent college football players on that defense. And you don't need to go into Miami against that offense and give up chunk plays and a lot of yards and a lot of points. That would be a bad look. So don't do it. Don't have to worry about it. But, yeah, it's been 4 games in a row. The team, no matter who it is, Devin Leary, DJ, Sam Hartman, of course, or a true freshman playing in his first game ever, they're going to roll down the field on you and score the first drive of the second half. So
Noles are due. It won't happen this week.
That's right. How about an all-out blitz? Like just blitz all 11.
Just 0 blitz every time.
Don't even cover the receivers. You're all coming.
Oh, man. Would you rather Florida State be up by 2, Miami has the ball on their own 25 with 40 seconds left, or would you rather be trailing by 5, Florida State has the ball on their own 25 with 50 seconds left in a timeout?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say the former.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a really good question. But, I mean, 50 seconds to go 75 yards in a timeout against a team all ratcheted up with the defense, with the crowd. 1 sack and the game is over.
How long was that 4th and 14 drive? That wasn't a lot of plays.
That started at like the 80, yeah. But I think there was 2 minutes left when they did that.
Yeah. Well, we won't have to find out because Florida State's going to romp them.
Basically, when do you get in victory formation? Yeah. With 2 minutes left, minute and a half left, you keep running the ball to try to run up the score. That's the real question.
Shout out to our guy, Island Chief. He posted and then also emailed me. Apparently, his email says that I fell asleep midway during my post. His post said, "Wake up!" Hung that 41 on Georgia Tech in a way that provoked as much disappointment as approval. Coming off a 3-game skid, it's hard to get too excited about a beatdown of a lesser opponent that got off to a sloppy start. 642 yards and 41 points isn't very efficient. #sarcasm. His email, though, says, disregard my question or answer this. Which team gets closer to their average? Miami's defense of allowing 343 total yards in a game or Florida State's offense of hanging 487 yards per game? Are they really averaging 487 yards per game?
Yeah, man. It's crazy.
Wow.
What do you say? They're 16th in the country? Yeah. It's nuts. And probably 10th in the Power 5? It's pretty remarkable what they've done. Man, I guess at night on the road, you never know. Road games can be tricky. Rivalry games can be tricky. I would be pleasantly surprised if they got anywhere close to 500 yards, but I would be really disappointed if they were around 350. So I'm going to couch it and say that it's going to split the difference. Put them at 425. That should be enough, right, Aslan? 425 yards?
Yeah. Well, just whatever the line of delineation is, I'll take one closer to Florida State's average of 487 versus 343. How about that, everybody?
I just feel like if you can put up 480 or whatever they did against Clemson, and I know Miami has a nice defense in their at least a good defensive line, and they are playing at home with an actual crowd. I mean, if you could put up 480 against Clemson, that should equate to 450 against Miami, right? At least. Otherwise, you had a bad day. Or, how about this, Aslan? How about maybe you don't rack up a ton of total yards because the defense keeps giving you short fields.
There we go.
So instead of those 80-yard drives, you're only having to go 31 after another Akeem Dent pick.
Something that Ira brought up that's somewhat salient maybe to this question, but to the overall mood of Saturday's game, I think, is, when they went down there in 2020, despite the fact that they really were just dead men walking, calves going to the slaughter, whatever analogy you want to use, Mike Norvell still sent them down there with a game plan of, we're going to try to win the game, and we're going to do everything, even if it's absolutely reckless, because we're going to try to win the game, because you play to win the game. Mario might wave a white flag if it becomes little, and this is Ira's, and I'm paraphrasing. He says it much more eloquently. Check out the Warchant report. But maybe Mario, tells Josh Gaddis, run the ball in 3rd and 8. I don't care. Just run it. Just run it. Late third quarter, we're down by 2 scores. Just run it. Just keep the clock running. We don't want to get blown out of our own arena, our own stadium. So I think maybe Florida State's offense maybe doesn't absolutely have this huge outpouring of production that they're capable of having because Miami tries to kind of figures out that they can't hang with Florida State, and they'll just figure out like the easy way out. Like, all right, we'll just try to take the time away and only give them a certain amount of possessions. So
I mean, if we've been watching Miami this year, though, that hasn't really seemed like their MO. Garcia's still throwing pick six when they're down 20 points in the fourth quarter to Duke. And they got run over by Middle Tennessee in the fourth quarter. Like, it doesn't seem like that's their MO. I would hope not, man. Like, what number one, that would be, I don't know that enters Cristobal's. It'd have to be more than 2 scores to just be like, just run it on 3rd and 8 and punt. I mean, the game's still within grasp, especially in this rivalry. Cristobal's grown up in this rivalry. He knows what can how things can flip in the fourth quarter. If it's 4 scores, yeah, run the ball, get off the field. Just chew clock and get out of there. But that'd be a great problem to have if they're running the ball up the middle on 3rd and 8 because they're down 38-9.
Marlon Joker Gurr RAA. Marlon, we just call him Marlon. What up? Wake up. It's here, boys. It's what we Seminole fans in Miami wait for all year, beat Miami week. Will Coach Norvell have the killer instinct to put Miami out of their misery? And can his offense put up 50? Hashtag love the show. Day one listener, go Noles.
Man, imagine if they put up 50. I would say no to that. That would be surprising.
Back. Yeah, I don't.
They haven't done it all year, have they?
No.
Except, did they even do it against Duquesne?
No, they put 42, 49,
yeah,
40-something.
No, if they put up 50, 47. That would be great. Get to 40, that would be incredible. I'd say get to 34, you're going to win the game pretty convincingly.
Have we ever even put up 50 on Miami in the rivalry?
I would think no. I know they beat them 47-0. One year they beat them, I think, 45-20 something. Another year in the 90s when they were going through the probation. I wouldn't think they got to. I don't think they got to 50-13.
No.
But
yeah,
have they?
Miami's
put up 50, right? Yeah, they put up 50 2 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like 47 as I look at the Wikipedia results. Yeah, 47 back in 97. 47-0 was the most Florida State hung on Miami. So good times.
Yeah. Yep.
Go back on probation, dudes. But again, listen to Jeff Cameron's show, man. Jeff is really. I think he and Tom both picked 40 points for Florida State in the game, so they foresee.
Well, you've seen a little bit of quit, right? You've seen a little bit of quit in that team.
Yeah, my buddy Miami fan says that. Yeah, he confirms that. Yeah, when things.
So if they get down, if they get down 17-3, and then you don't do what you did against NC State, but you come and kind of put your foot on their neck and go up another score, don't give them an easy touchdown drive, then they start to not only doubt, they start to quit. That's been kind of the DNA of that program for a good long while now. They'll get blown out. They don't really have any issues with it. Give them a reason to quit. If you don't give them a reason to quit, they will fight you for 4 quarters and it'll be a tough game. But they could be itching to just mail it in. So,
Seminole Life, wake up, boys. Seminole Life doesn't like a lot of our quarterback takes of late about putting Jordan in rarefied air, but he comes with a fresh slate. With the head-scratching coaching decisions we have seen and the issues inside the 20, I'm curious where you guys think this team would be with Bobby Bowden as the head coach and his staff in their prime years. Same group of players, just that staff. Go Noles.
Oh. Now,
I
love Bobby Bowden. Yeah. I love what he did for the program. I love what he did for my life. None of this would be happening without Bobby Bowden, but he made some head-scratchers inside the 22 now, and you go watch some of those wide rights, and there was some clock management, even the game against Nebraska, they won the national championship. There's some time management, clock management stuff that really doesn't add up. But they would be better. I don't know how else to say it. They would be better.
Okay, all right.
I mean, I think so. I mean, you're talking about one of the best coaches of all time versus Mike Norvell. I like you, Mike. You're not quite up there on Mount Rushmore yet, so it would be weird if I was like, no, actually, they'd be worse with Bobby Bowden. Maybe that'd be a crazy take. Bobby Bowden wasn't.
We're breaking this video out. It's going to be
yes, yeah, exactly. Hot take. Norvell would have won 6 titles during the dynasty, maybe 10. He would have. I mean, come on now. Bobby Bowden was holding them back. I think that Bobby Bowden was a great offensive innovator back in his day, but it's hard to know. Like, if Mark Richt and Bobby Bowden in their primes are running this thing, or you throw Wayne McDuffie in there, yeah, they'd probably score more, I guess. They'd run some more toss sweeps and some double reverses.
What if they would have lost to NC State the way they lost against Virginia in 95?
I like that call, man.
Okay.
I like that call. He should have gotten in. He slipped. Yeah. I'll always blame work done. It was blocked well. I like that call, man. But there's a really cool story about that. I can't remember if I've told this or not on the show about that play. We're talking about the 95 Virginia play. They had the ball at like the 6, right? 1 play left, down by 5, and they do a direct snap to Warwick Dunn, who's the best player on the field, and he gets to like the half-yard line. But one of the Virginia linebackers, Anthony Poindexter, somebody. Virginia had a loaded team too. That was a lot of NFL guys on that team. He saw the way Warwick Dunn was looking at the snap, at the ball, and pointed or told his guys, he's getting the ball, he's getting the ball. He had figured out, I guess, maybe somebody that had played them, or he had figured out during the course of the game, because Florida State would run that a couple of times a game, that anytime the running back looked at the center and looked at the ball underneath the center's legs, it meant he was getting the ball. Because every other play, Warwick Dunn is looking at the defense. But in this play, he was looking at the ball. And so that clued him in that Warwick Dunn was about to get the ball snapped to him. So I always blame Warwick Dunn. What did he ever do for the Noles?
Got to self-scout better, guys.
Come on, 2-8. Come on, 2-8. Look out anywhere else. Just snap it without looking at it. Or catch it without looking at it.
All right, bundle these next two together. They're diametrically opposite, yet from the same family. Dunlaw 402. What's up, guys? Let me preface, underline, by saying I think we win.
Okay.
But I want to know where your feelings would be for Mike Norvell and the staff if they do, in fact, inexplicably lose to Miami. I, personally, Dunlaw 402, I'd give them the old Kiffin Southern Cal treatment, leave them all at the airport. Hopefully we win, obviously, but I think we all have some doubt, even though we're the much better team. There is zero excuse to lose to this Miami team, IMO, which is, in my opinion,
right.
Ellipses, 0, he says. All right, so we got some forecasting of Mike Norvell. And then Seminole 324444, which is somewhere in the panhandle. I know we're still waiting for the Norvell train to get a full head of steam, but seeing the steaming pile of whatever is going on in Coral Gables, shouldn't that give us fans a little more to be proud of? Who's our head coach? He took a dumpster fire, cancerous locker room of disjointed recruiting targets and has turned them into a team on the cusp of an 8-9 win season, possible 10 wins. Mario took over a Miami team that had talent and skill. They're now in a dumpster that we vacated. If we lose, all these statements reverse, but I truly think Norvell, we keep this one in his pocket. So we have someone who thinks, obviously, both guys think we're going to win. If we lose, what happens? And I guess maybe we should celebrate and be thankful of who we have versus who they have, despite the fact they're kind of on different levels of their climbs, if you will.
Right, but again, we're saying this before the game.
Yeah.
So after the game, if you go down there and lose, it's. I mean, I guess part of it depends on how it plays out, but not much.
No, I can't. Yeah.
I mean, again, if something if a couple of horrible calls go against you, if you get cheated somehow, but aside from that,
we got cheated against Miami in 18. We've kind of, after a day or two of giving them the benefit of the doubt, we kind of went back to like, well, this team's not good. We don't like this team, so.
Well, they also were in the midst of, they did get cheated, but they had also kept dropping Francois back with the 20-point lead. So that wasn't great. But so there were reasons to nitpick, but also, they got cheated. They should have won that game. They won that game, and the refs took it from them. And who knows if that changes the whole complexion of Willie's tenure. But going down to this team, where their fans clearly don't believe they're going to win, they just, even though they beat Virginia, was pretty embarrassing, and then was really embarrassing the week before against Duke. They've been embarrassed by Middle Tennessee. They scored 9 whole points against A&M. Like, all these things that have happened this year, if you go down there and give them their only good win after who the other teams that have come in there and beat them, it's hard to then take a step back 2 or 3 days later and say, hey, still appreciate what I'm building.
Yeah. When
you lose to a first-year coach who, I wouldn't call it a dumpster fire, but they've got gasoline in a match and they're getting close to it. They're about ready to light that thing up. They want to jump into a dumpster fire. They can't. They're having a bonfire kind of event, waiting to jump into the dumpster fire. And you're going to come on and just bring a bunch of fire extinguishers? Call the firemen? Come on, man. Like, let them do it. Let them have their dumpster fire. If you don't go down there and win that game, like I said, I think it becomes the second worst loss of his tenure.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's a close third. Because you have so much to play for. Maybe the Florida game last year. You have so much to play for. But you're better than you were last year. You're better. Your team is better than the one that lost to Florida.
Significantly better. I mean,
so,
you're top 25 in offense, and your defense is top 40
you're top
right
25
now.
in both. Yeah. So you should go win that. You're favored by 7 or 8 points. Like, to go and lose that game, I guess man, I don't know, man. I guess you could still win out and finish 9-4. And then we would be like, yeah, that was a bummer you lost that game, but hey, you closed strong. But short of that, which you wouldn't think would happen if you're losing to Miami, you're like, okay, well, you're probably going to lose Syracuse. Florida's a coin flip. Here we are again, another 6-win-ish season. When are these strides going to be made, Mike? All that comes into play if you lose to Miami. This is a game you should win and probably win comfortably. And like I said, short of getting cheated, are just crazy turnovers. Other than that, or horrible injuries. Short of that, there's no excuse. You're a better team. I think you're better than NC State. You lost that one. Quit losing to teams that you're better than.
No one can stop you. You stop you. Quit stopping you.
Also, I want to say this. It ain't their time. It's our time.
It is.
Right, Aslan?
That's right.
Come on now.
Bama Knoll 2, by the way, said, I forgot to read this, my favorite Clarkism is definitely you're allowed to. So I just want to make sure I get that on the record.
I feel like that. I've heard that a few times. That obviously means I just say it way too much. I got to come up with another saying.
No, they like it.
All right.
It's when you
but
use
I say I got to come up with another Clark. I don't even know what another Clarkism is.
Well, you got 7 hours in a car to figure it out, buddy.
That's right. I will. Good call. Good call.
Knoll 43, also known as Eric from Cincinnati, now in Tallahassee. Wake up, Knowles. It's Miami Hate Week. Aslan, Corey, it is Miami Hate Week. I see our Seminoles jumping out to a fast start, taking down the Canes in blowout fashion, 44-17. It doesn't matter who Miami's quarterback is going to be. Let's just take care of business and move on to Syracuse. Go Knowles. Hit the thumbs up button. Hit the like button on Warchant's YouTube page and subscribe for only $10. Warchant.com. I'll probably go and watch the game at CP on Saturday. Eric from Tallahassee. It's interesting. I saw the line. I think the last time I checked the line, it was 7.5. But crazy enough, the first quarter line. I mean, they can do on mybookie.ag. They'll do by the quarter. Florida State's a 10.5 point favorite in the first quarter.
What?
Yeah,
that can't be right.
It is. It's right there, mybookie.ag, and that's not even a read, but it was because I was trying to look at the spread last night. And I kept typing it in, and I'm like, oh, my gosh, the line has swelled all the way up to 10.5. And then it was like, no, that's just the first quarter line. I'm like, that's nuts. They think like they're going to jump out to a 14-0 lead, 14-3 lead in the first quarter.
And then just hang on for dear life. Well, that's kind of the MO, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's
what they did against LSU. It's what they did against NC State. It's kind of their thing.
Yeah. Well, let's just go right into the read then. It's all available at mybookie.ag. Use the promo code WARCHANT. Your first deposit will be matched instantly, dollar for dollar, up to $1,000. Florida State, a 7.5 point favorite. There's all sorts of alternate lines that you can play with over on mybookie.ag. Over-unders also. And now let me see what we have here. There's an alternate line of 4.5 points, but you can get a little bit of a better payout, I guess, if you're a Miami fan. I need to find that first quarter thing because I don't believe myself now. But it's all there. There's when you go and look up the Miami-Florida State, in the bottom right corner of the actual game line, there'll be other props. There's over 200 other props. There's just all these different lines. It's crazy, the amount of stuff that you can get going on over at mybookie.ag. Just use that promo code WARCHANT, again, and your deposit will be matched instantly, dollar for dollar. Moving on to the historical portion of the program, Corey, your time to shine. We will do all these here together. So, random_John, good morning, guys. How are you two renowned gentlemen doing today? I'm doing well.
I'm doing great. Aslan, how are you doing?
I'm well.
Okay, good.
Can you remember the game or moment you really emotionally got invested into this rivalry? For John, it was the 88 game against Miami. It was a few weeks before my 10th birthday. My dad was so pumped. Then the game happened. I was not pumped. But, hey, 1 year later, Dexter Carter had me jumping up and down on the couch. I was a Nole for life. I don't care what running back it is. I want one of our guys to run to the left, catch the corner, half 5, half 10, and he will score. Just like it was called when Dexter ran in. He provides the video of it as well. So think about the moment that you first got emotionally invested in this game. Then our guy S. Quinn 67 says, hate week. Can't wait to dominate in Joe Robbie Pro Rock Seminole Hard Rock Stadium. Foxtrot Mike, Foxtrot Mike. In your opinion, what's the best Florida State Miami game? The answer is 1989, he says. And then finally, our guy, Colorado Nole. I still remember watching my first Florida State game back in November of 81. It was so cold in chilly southern Colorado, couldn't play outside, and there wasn't anything to watch on the 3 TV stations except a football game between the Florida State Seminoles and the Miami Hurricanes. I was a 7-year-old in southern Colorado, had no idea about college football in the state of Florida, but I instantly began cheering for the Noles and have been a fan ever since. What's your favorite FSU Miami moment? So let's maybe go out of order. What the 89 game? That's the answer. Do you disagree? Is that it? That's the best Florida State Miami game ever. If you're a Florida State fan.
If you're, man, I'm a Florida. I mean, I grew up a Florida State fan. I still think the '87 game was the best game ever, even though they lost because they went for 2.
Yeah.
And in this day and age, it wouldn't have mattered because they would have gone to the playoff either way and gotten to play them again. The 89 one was that was awesome because of the, Dexter Carter, Leroy Butler picks off the first pass of the game over against Toretta, and then Dexter Carter scores. But Miami did have the excuse they were playing their backup quarterback. Now, their backup quarterback was Gino Toretta, who ended up going to win a Heisman a couple years later, but they didn't have their starter. So
Steve Walsh? Should have been Steve Walsh? Or who was
Craig Erickson.
Craig Erickson.
So yeah, it took a little of the luster off. Plus, they went ahead and won the national championship anyway, even with the loss, because that's how it worked back then. Anytime Florida State lost by a close game, it's like, sorry, losers. You got no chance to win the national title. But Miami loses. It's like, it worked out. We get to play and win another one.
Weren't those games earlier in the late 80s games? Weren't those earlier in the season? And in the 90s we started playing later on? Or am I misremembering that?
Well, it varied. Like the wide right, the first wide right was the second to last game of the season. They ended with Miami and Florida, which is just nutty. But then, like the 87 game was, October, like early October. I think Florida State was 4-0 when that happened. So, it used to usually be in October.
88 was first game of the season, right? The Seminole wrap?
Yeah. That was so it varied. It went all over the map. I would say my favorite, man, there's so many great Florida State Miami moments. The Dexter Carter putting the flag on the kids on Bernard Clark's head was awesome. Man, Devin Bush's pick 6 to ice the 93 game. Matt Fryer's touchdown in that game where he hugs the cop. Race beating Rohan Marley down the field for a touchdown. Bob Marley's kid. That was awesome. Man.
Jalen's pick in 16. Roberto's field goal in 16.
14,
sorry.
Yeah, that's not a bad one. Dalvin throwing up the 305 in 14. The screen
block
pass.
at the Rock.
The DeMarcus, DeMarcus
muff.
doing that. That was 16. The muff. I mean, it's all over the place.
I sat through that game. If you sat through that 2005 freaking debacle.
Yeah.
Ugh. But still delicious at the same
Hey, it was a dub, right? It
was
a dub.
Kind
Got
of
110 yards of total offense and still won the game. Kyle Wright got sacked like 11 times. That was nuts. Man, so there's been a lot of memorable ones. I was going to say in 13, they threw a screen pass to Freeman for like a 50-yard touchdown, and Red Lightning celebrating in the end zone with the gang. Yeah. All that. There's a lot of great memories, but so I don't know where to choose from. But my first game that I remember what the rivalry meant to me was 1984. Might have been my first road game, maybe my third game overall. Miami was the reigning national champions. Jimmy Johnson's first year. They still had Bernie Kosar, and Florida State went down there and beat them 38-3.
Nice.
And I was there, and it's like my dad, let's be honest, I don't like to speak ill of the dead, but he got pretty drunk that afternoon because they sold beer at the Orange Bowl back then when no other college stadiums did. And the whole rest of the night, we went out to dinner with his friends. Every, 45, 50 seconds, Turk, 38-3, 38-3, just over and over again. So I'll always remember that.
Oh, man. For me, the first, again, emotionally invested was probably the wide right, 91. Like, I'll always remember, I don't know, I think I've got like 2 images of Bobby in my head. One of them is being carried off the field, in the Sugar Bowl in 99 after winning the national title. And the other, I'll always just see the shot of him running and then stopping and putting his hands on his hips in look of disbelief. Like, what do you mean it? What do you mean it wasn't good?
Yeah.
It's like the antithesis of Jimbo's run in Pasadena. Like, Jimbo's run during Pasadena was like this beautiful moment of like, all right, we've got these guys. And then, like, if the wide right would have happened last year, that would have been memed forever. That would just been like the biggest meme. It would have been like when your girl says come over, but then her parents show up at the last minute or something. You know, it's like you're running up in glory of like, yeah. And then, wait, what? Huh? And you just like the look, the pain in his just you're like, what? Huh? What do you mean? I don't get it. Like that, it hit me, man. It hit me
was
on
no
a
good. He
spiritual
yelled out, it was
level.
no good. Yeah.
Yeah, it hit me on a spiritual level. I'm like, all right, it's a big deal. It's a really big deal. So, yeah, all right. Memory
A lot
lane.
of heartache in this rival, really for both fan bases, but one more than the other.
Yeah, like when they lose, like it's a different kind of flavor, variety of loss. For like they'll get pounded most of the time, but like when Florida State loses them, it's just very. Like last year, we paid back the favor a little bit. That was a pretty gut-wrenching
that was
way
a
to
heartbreaking loss for them. I would say the block at the Rock was really heartbreaking. The Jalen game in 14, they were up 16-0 in that game, and then Dalvin scores, and then Jalen ends it with an interception. They were going to be the team that finally ended the streak. Right. Those were all heartbreakers, man, but not quite to the level of because there wasn't as much at stake for them.
Yes.
Like every time Florida State lost a really close game to Miami, it's like, oh, you just blew a national championship. When Miami loses a close one to Florida State, it's like, oh, you just blew a 7-win season or an 8-win season.
Al Golden's going to lose his job. All right, Seminole Preacher, wake up. First time asking a question here. I'm from Gilchrist County. I say the county because the two towns are tiny, Bell and Trenton. Bell's the home of Jason Floyd, who played receiver in the early 90s. Question, can someone ask Coach Fuller what has changed in defensive back coaching that they no longer read the eyes of the receivers and turn to find the pass? That used to be taught. Why not anymore?
We
could Monday. Yeah, I could do it. I'll ask him.
Yeah, I mean, I think they do try to teach that. It's just in the course of a game.
I thought it was like play the hands now. More, it's like stay in phase, play the hands.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I thought it was always if you're even with them, turn around. If you're trailing them, play the eyes, play the hands. Yeah. But they don't play those passes all that well, do they? But who does? There aren't many DBs that do. You just hope the refs don't call flags on every time there's a little bit of contact with a receiver trying to jump up and make a catch.
All right, next up, our guy down in Naples, Mark. We're going to pair this one with another. We're getting there, I promise, everybody. Wake up, he says. Safe travels to Miami, boys. Some video from the car ride would be entertaining. We'll be in different cars, but maybe I can just bother Ira. Ira will be driving me, so I can just bother and pepper him with stuff. I know on paper we should handle the Canes. They were no match for the likes of Middle Tennessee State, Duke, etc. But I can't fight this feeling. Parenthetically, he adds, great song. That will be another close battle in a rivalry game. I think Miami's staff is likely to put out a bounty on Jordan Travis. LSU tried it with that targeting hit that could have ended his season or career. Miami has almost nothing to lose in this game. Do you see a clean game where we take care of business, protect the ball, and just outwill them for a nice win? Or do you see Miami really up for this game and playing above their recent form and making it a game? I see something in between. We'll win by 6 or 7 and just get out of there. This isn't 2013, obviously. I still don't trust this team to get out to a lead, maintain it, and increase it just because they're the better team, which they are. But I'll take the W however it looks. Go Noles. And then KMG7. I think I got this all wrong. Whatever, let's just answer Mark's question. I'm closer to I think Miami will play up and above their head. But I still think Florida State will win 27-20. So Miami's covers. But I don't know. I mean, I would hope no one would complain about 27-20. But 41-17 or 14 or whatever, Tom, I think Tom 42-20 might have been his pick on Warchant Report. Ooh. That obviously sounds a lot better.
Well, and look, nobody has a right to complain about a win against Miami when you're 5-3. Again, this isn't an 8-0 team. So a win is the most important thing by far. It's just what it would say about maybe the direction of the program and how good I think this team actually kind of is if they went out there and won comfortably. Like, if you eke out a win, it's awesome. The win is all that matters. Getting to 6, getting to bowl eligibility, that's all that matters. Extending that streak over your rival to 2. But I think it would say more clearly if you went out there and beat them by 3 touchdowns. about where your program is, where their program is, where you're going, and how much better a team you are in 2022 than you were in 2021, and clearly what you were in 2020. Like, imagine in 2 years going from getting completely embarrassed, 52-10, to a not very good Miami team now. You give up 5 straight touchdowns to start that game, which is incredible. Maybe 6. Maybe they scored on their first. I know they had 35 at half, and they'd had the ball 5 times. So to come back the next time you're down there and not only win, but win comfortably, that would be a nice feather in the cap of what Mike Norvell has built and what he's building.
Yeah, but I think the same thing applies to them, too. They could, in year one of Mario, lose bad this season and then somehow arrive in Tallahassee next year, maybe with a pretty decent team and eke something out, So, it goes back to what I asked Jeff and Ira about who has more to lose. And they're like, well, it's absolutely Mike. That's year one of Mario. He can explain a lot of things away. He still has a little bit of newness, so he's going to do well on the recruiting trail. So there's a lot more pressure, kind of like on Florida State, to pull through here and win. But I still think they're going to try to play really hard, man. They need this win for sure, man. They don't have a lot to feel good about. They lose this game, what are they going to feel good about their season? Even if they might not make a bowl game if they lose this game. So I don't know if I answered that. I probably rambled because I was right about packaging with this other thing. We'll keep this one somewhat brief. KMG7, first-time poster, long-time listener. Bigger surprise, FSU loses by 1 score or they win by 25 or more? That's a really good question. For him, I just don't see how we let them beat us. There's got to be some players still on the team that suffered that 52-10 loss, and something in me just feels that Norvell will have these guys locked in more than ever and ready to dominate and get sweet revenge. 38-13 is what he says.
I would still go with I would be more surprised at a blowout win down there, just because they don't happen often. I mean, I think Florida State's like blown Miami out in that building once or twice ever. No matter what the difference in the talent level is, and the difference in talent level isn't that great this year. So I would still, it's the cynic in me, and it's the guy that grew up watching this rivalry. But I would be more surprised with a 25-point win than a loss.
Yeah, I mean, I can't do the math quick enough in my head, but I don't know. I think maybe that 2010 and then maybe 97.
Yeah, but that was up here.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, so 2010, 45-17. We were 23rd. They were 13th.
Yeah, it was a kind of an upset.
Yeah, look at that. And second question, how positive are you that we'll see Winston Wright at any point this season?
Not positive. 2 months ago, I was very positive. Not anymore. Just because we're now into November.
Yeah.
So.
All right, some last questions here. Several, but we'll get to them. Kyle, get down, lay down. Wake up, who's the best Seminole ever to come from the Miami area? Marvin Jones.
Marvin Jones, yeah.
Dalvin?
Well, yeah, that's a good one too now. A tie, I guess.
Okay.
Marvin's a college football Hall of Famer. Dalvin probably will be. Yeah. Marvin finished 4th in the Heisman voting.
As a linebacker.
Inside linebacker. It's my era. It's when I grew up, so I'm going to still have to say Marvin.
Okay. That's fair. Mucknell, really hot take, but here it goes. I saw the solution to our red zone woes this past weekend against Georgia Tech. If and when he's fully ready to go, C.J. Campbell is just what the doctor ordered. He's right at 200 pounds, unique build, strong running style, and explosive, unlike any other back on the roster. He should be exploited by Norvell whenever C.J. is truly ready to go. What do you think? Go Noles. So, I mean, maybe he's a little more, we think he's a little more explosive than Trey. Because, I mean, Trey's a hammer. He's over 200 pounds, well over 200 pounds. But maybe he thinks that C.J.'s a good blend, like a hybrid. I don't know. I'd like to throw the ball to 14 a little bit better. Figure out better ways
the running
of
back room is pretty good. It's pretty diverse, good dudes. A couple of them might play in the league, maybe all 3. Who knows? Yeah, I would say if 14 has a big day, I think you're winning. Right? He's had 200-yard receiving days this year. They won them both. So there you go. There's my stat of the week for you.
Stat of the week. Or the stat of the day. Shout out Lebatard Show. Is it even on anymore? I mean, they left ESPN. I don't even know.
I don't know.
9:01. Wake up. I know y'all are millionaires by how amazing the sponsors are. But for the sake of the question, let's assume you're multi-millionaires. What would determine the amount of money you would give to NIL, if any? What would change in your mind when your money goes to a 5-star that doesn't pan out? Lastly, which school scares you the most if they can figure out NIL? He says Florida. I don't think Miami's ever going to figure anything out, so they don't scare me. I'd be more scared of Miami than Florida. Just got to think you can sell the city of Miami and a whole bunch of money to a 17, 18-year-old more so than – but then I get it. Listen, you're nobody kind of in the galaxy, the orbit of Miami. If you go to Florida and Gainesville, you're a big hot shot. For me, I don't know, man. I'm not married, so if I was a multimillionaire, I probably would be okay with giving 6 figures every year. I would think. Maybe not 6 figures. That's still a lot of money. Maybe like $50,000, $60,000 on a player. It would all be personal preference, though. I'd have to follow Mike Langston's recruiting updates and Austin Cox and be like, oh, I like the way that kid talks, or I like his film. It wouldn't be like, hey, this are the 4 or 5 guys coaches identified as wanting. Like, I don't care. I'm the GM. I'll give you 60 for this kid. I'd go rogue. I'd be like, all right, that's great. Right. That's who he wants, but I like this kid. This is who I want.
That's not quite how it works, where you get to earmark which player gets your money. I hope it all goes into a big pot, and then somebody else distributes it once
I
they
wouldn't
know
want that. No
what
way.
the market is for each player.
I wouldn't want that.
Having said that, I would ask that none of my money goes to recruits, and it all goes to retaining good players that are already on your roster. Okay. That would be that's where I would use my NIL money.
Okay.
Either keeping them from the draft or keeping them from Tuscaloosa or Athens or Columbus.
Yeah. Southern Cal's probably would Southern Cal be the answer to who scares you the most if they figure out NIL? I know they're not a direct
I was going to say, they don't really
of
scare
us.
You, though, right? Like, you're okay if Southern Cal's great out there. That's fine. They're not really a threat to Florida State as far as, like, you're not recruiting against them for many players.
What do you think? Florida, Miami, which one scares you more with NIL?
Florida.
Okay. Winkles. If this team were a meal, what would it be? It's coming off the heels. I wonder how much tread he has on the tire. I think last week he asked us about tater tots and potatoes, so maybe this is his thing.
Dipping down to the bottom of the well.
I see this team as a burrito, he says. Lots of ingredients that all make it work, but sometimes it gets a little sloppy and needs to be cleaned up.
Okay.
I don't disagree.
Yeah, I certainly can't think of anything better off the top of my head. I didn't put the work in that the Winkles did.
Maybe a ribeye, like really tasty, really, really satisfying. But then sometimes you get that fatty grizzle, and you're like, ew, that was gross.
That's the best part.
Really?
No, I'm just kidding. Okay. But I do. That's why ribeyes are so good, because they got that fat on them.
Yeah, but there's some of the marbling, but like the ends of it where it's really fatty. It's like, well, that's too much. I like chewing on it for a bit and then spitting it out and then
spitting it back out. Yeah.
Well, I can't. It's a good thing about being a single man. You can be disgusting in your own filth.
You just eat some of your ribeye and then spit it back on your plate?
Well, just the grizzle part of it. Like, yeah, man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Like, I usually do a bone-in ribeye, so I'll start gnawing on that bone like I'm a dog. Hey. Braden Knoll, Jordan Travis fan here. Good morning, fellas. Wake up quietly. I went to the Georgia Tech game last weekend. It was my first ever game at Doak at age 26. I loved it. I expected Doak to be huge, but it's actually a pretty nice size. Very welcoming atmosphere, but to the point I want to make is that I love Jordan Travis and this team, but why so much debate about how good he is? I think we all need to sit and realize we were 3-6 2 years ago. Now we're 5-3 and favored over both of our rivals. We're in a great position. Jordan is a top 10, 15 quarterback in the country, no debate. PFF loves him. We should too. Go Noles. P.S. Stop the Travis bashing on here, fans, before he leaves us.
So he's talking to the tribal council.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I don't know. I don't know what y'all. It's weird to like what were people wanting? What do people want? They look around the country and it's like, yeah, I get it. Bryce Young would be awesome, but there aren't a lot of Bryce Youngs. In fact, there's only one. Caleb Williams. Yeah, he was never coming here. Appreciate that you've gone into every game this year, except for maybe Wake, with the best quarterback on the field. That has not been the case at Florida State in nary a. It's been a long time since you could say you went into 10 or 11 out of 12 games with the best quarterback on the field, which you can say with this kid. And the offense is playing well. He's playing well. He hasn't even really used his legs as much as he's run for 200 yards in 8 games. I thought that would be at least double that. And he's still been this effective. So, yeah, man, he's turned into a really good quarterback. And you, again, like I said, the last 2 shows, if you project and as good as he's as improved as he's been the last 2 years, what would he look like next year if he comes back? Like if he just keeps if the growth rate continues on that plane, on that incline, what would it look like next year? That's he's good, man. He's good. He's not perfect. There aren't any out there that are perfect, but he's good.
Don't have a lot to say. Accurate stuff. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, we're with the hour 4 mark. Anything I say is going to be rebutted by Corey. So we'll just.
Yeah, we don't need that, do we? We need to get out of here.
We'll fight to see another day. I think this is the last one.
All right, man.
We made it. Yeah, it wasn't all that bad. See, when I actually read all these, and then I bundle them like my girl Flo. Derail. This is a long one though. Wake up. Good morning, Aslan and Corey. This team has had a bunch of positive things, few negative things. I could ask questions about why doesn't our quarterback run more often? Why don't we use the tight ends more? Why do our receivers still drop passes? Why can't we lob the ball up to a 6'7" receiver in the end zone? But what I'm really focused on are our defensive backs. Shoulder surgery and R followed by hour always trips me up, Corey.
Okay.
Hour. All summer long.
Hour. Got it. Okay.
Hour. All summer long, all we heard about was mission takeaway. Mission takeaway. Mission takeaway. Our defense can't get any turnovers. Specifically, the defensive back. Seems like every ACC team knows how to force turnovers but us. My question is, why is mission takeaway such a problem for our defense? Is it players? Is it coaching? Duke and Louisville have no problems forcing teams to turn over the ball 6 or more times in a game, 8 or more times in a game. Bonus question. If I set the over-under at one half of forced turnovers for our defense against Miami, would you take the over or the under? I would like both Corey and Aslan's answer on that.
Over.
Yes. Over. Yes. This is the game. It's our time.
It's one. You're due to get one, right? You're due.
Absolutely.
Like, it's not like Louisville's forcing 6 turnovers every quarter. It was a waterfall. And maybe Florida State's due for just a waterfall, like an avalanche of turnovers, and they have like 7. They force 7. If they force 7 turnovers, Aslan, dare I say they will put up 50 down there.
Yeah.
But, hey, baby steps. Let's just start with 1.
Why do you think there is a lack of turnovers? They're coached to go for the ball. I mean, they do that in the early periods of practice. You can see that in the video we're actually able to shoot and put up on the website. They practice stripping the ball. They practice getting on the ball.
And last year they ended the season with 8 straight games with at least 1 interception, which was the longest streak in the country. And most of those guys are still here, still playing. So I don't know, man. I don't know. I wish I did. I don't.
Bad luck. Renardo dropped the pick against Georgia Tech. Greedy wasn't
Vance dropped one against Wake.
Yeah, so they're in position, so you really can't blame it maybe on the coaching that much. Or as much.
Yeah, sure you can. I mean, the coaching deserves blame and credit for things. I think that they don't teach zone well, so I don't think quarterbacks against Florida State are confused a lot. I don't think there's guys in windows that they don't expect to be there. Like all of a sudden, where'd that linebacker come from? He dropped into coverage. Or where'd that I didn't know that cornerback was going to come. I thought he was playing man, but he wasn't. Like they don't seem to really confuse offensive coordinators and quarterbacks a lot. But it was the same defense they played last year when they were one of the leaders in the conference in interceptions. So I legitimately don't know. I wish I did, gang. I wish I did. But maybe, again, they're saving them all up for this stretch run.
I'll ask Adam Fuller about that and then playing the eyes and the hands on Monday.
There you go.
Right.
Nice.
Thanks, guys.
Nice.
Helping me do my job. All right, we did it. We made it. It's over. Thanks for being here, everybody. Don't forget, Warchant Game Day presented by Zaxby's starts at 6:30 with a 1-hour pregame show with Jeff Cameron and Tom Lang live right here on Warchant TV, our YouTube channel for warchant.com. The matchup analysis, Warchant report, they're all up. We, Corey, I, and Ira, will be down in Miami Gardens for this game, giving you full wrap-up, the Warchant wrap, interviews, Corey's column, also a post-game show on warchant.com on the YouTube page, 10, 15 minutes after the game with Gene Williams and Tom Lang. Who covers a team like we do? Nobody. And all we ask is maybe a thumbs up, like, maybe $10 American for a whole year of all this. Just a thought. That's all. Corey, thanks for doing this.
Hey, Aslan, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Have me back.
For Corey, I'm Aslan. Thank you so much for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.